Actually, let me spotlight you for everyone, so everyone see your beautiful face.
Great.
And okay, hello everybody. Welcome to our next industry guest talk. Today our guest is Steph, our amazing guest. Um, Steph has
Hey.
worked on some really cool projects like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, one of my favorite animations. She worked on that. Steph has worked on Hotel Transylvania, the second and third one, Angry Birds movie, Peter Rabbit 2. So she has worked in some big companies like Sony Pictures Imageworks and then Animal Logic. And now she's a boss. She's the co-founder of a very rapidly growing company called Floating Rock in Wellington. When I interviewed Marcos, I think it was 2 years ago. It was
Okay.
just four of you, your colleague, your co-founder, um,
Lucas? Okay.
Lucas. Sorry,
Yeah.
I might say Mark.
Yeah, that's okay.
Lucas. Yeah,
Yeah.
like when I interviewed amazing Lucas, it was just four of you, and you guys did brilliant in 2 years, and now you say that you
Nearly
are
50.
about 50. Wow, that's
Yeah.
that's 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 fantastic. Okay, so no more of me talking. I'll hand it to Steph. Like all of our guest talks, this is a very chill and friendly talk. Any one of you at any point, if you have any question, you can turn on your camera or mic, or just drop a text here in the text message, and I read it for Steph. So yeah, it's not it's a chill talk, and I hope you guys take away some really good hints and points that casts some light for your future planning.
Yeah. Um, Thanks for that very nice intro. I will share maybe this screen.
Beautiful.
Can you see this presentation?
Yes. When I heard that you text that in your text that you said I'm from Pincher Creek,
Uh-huh.
I googled the Pincher Creek photos. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing there.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So, um, hi, I am Steph, and for me, I, my journey started in Pincher Creek. So I grew up in Pincher Creek in like this tiny, small town in Canada, and there's the population's about 3,000 people. We have one main street. It takes about a minute to get from one side to the other, and it's quite small. I went to high school there, and like it's so small that like all of my friends are, they either live on a farm, they're cowboys. I lived across from the rodeo grounds. Like, this is how small town this is.
Oh, wow.
And so in my graduating year, one of the most exciting things that came up was a Walmart came to town. And everybody was just like, oh, let's go to Walmart. Let's go hang out at Walmart. There's a McDonald's there. And as I was graduating high school, I wasn't quite sure like what I wanted to do, but I knew I didn't want to stick around and, I don't know, end up working at Walmart at that time. Like, I needed to go to college, and there's no college in Pincher Creek. So um, growing up, I used to be quite artsy, and I knew that was the direction that I needed to go in. So me and my parents sat down and tried to consider all of the different career avenues that I could take. And we ended up shortlisting down to graphic design and animation. And I wasn't quite sure which one to go for, but because I had said, I like movies, so let's try animation. That led me to move to Vancouver. to study for animation. So I ended up going to school at what was called the Art Institute of Vancouver. It's now known as LaSalle College. This was a 2-year diploma for animation arts and design. The first year was I'd learned about like drawing and lighting and modeling and rendering and the entire pipeline. And the second year was mostly focused on animation. So we started to develop a reel that contained a monologue, a dialogue. And yeah, at the end of 2 years, I had a reel for animation. And, you know, luckily I fell in love with animation while I was studying with it. And after that, I ended up working at a small studio that did television for kids. So I don't know if you know, or does anybody know the Slugterra, the show?
Anybody knows the show?
Monster High.
If you,
Maybe not.
yeah, Vivi say I loved Slugterra when I was a small child.
Oh, great.
He says,
good.
"Oh my God, Monster High." Our colleague Miriam is here as well. Hi, Miriam.
Hey. Yeah, great.
Yeah, some fans here.
Perfect. This was like a couple of shows that I had initially started out with that I wasn't quite sure about, but my little siblings at the time, they were in love with it as well. So having worked on these shows added a lot of meaning to my work. And so I was working at what was called Nerquar at the time for 2.5 years. And I started as a animation PA, which was lower than a junior. So over the 2 years, I had started working my way up through multiple episodes, through Monster High and Slugterra, and just learning a lot along the way, and learning how to work fast. And these projects were quite fun to work with. And after a couple of years, I just remember I was sitting in the room and one of the storyboard directors came in and he said, "Hey, you know, I have a friend and they're working at Sony Pictures Imageworks." And he said that they were looking for animators. And I perked up and went, I'm an animator. But at the time, you know, I wasn't quite confident in my level of animation. So a lot of times I just sat there and I'm like, like probably not good enough. Quality's not there yet. I don't think I should try anyway. But after a bit of a nudge, and kind of humming and hawing about it, I said, you know what, like the worst that's gonna happen is they say, no, not right now. So I got together a reel, I sent in my application, and a week later they called back with an interview. So I went in for an interview and it went well. They wanted to hire me. So it wasn't for an animation position, unfortunately, but it was still for fixed animator. And it was for Hotel Transylvania too. So I was super stoked either way. I had thought that even though that this wasn't for animation, as a full animator, it was still a foot in the door and I can still learn a lot along the way. So as a fixed animator, you jump in and all of the animators who had done shots before, if say an arm is crashing into the stomach, it would get sent back to me. I'd have to move the arm just slightly out. So it wasn't very creative, but I did learn a lot technically, and I learned a lot of what not to do. And as I started to get more proficient in the fixes that needed to be fixed, I got some crowd animation shots along the side. So I'll show you one of them that I worked on. So super quick, not even 3 seconds, but I was so happy to have this shot. A lot of people,
cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
A lot of people don't really like crowd shots, but you know, new in the industry, I'm super excited to have any shots in the film. So what I quite liked about this.
So that shot was entirely animated by you?
Yeah, Yeah.
Okay.
And
you should be
so-
very proud.
Thank you. I was. This is still like one of the fun ones that I enjoy.
It is fun. I like the ones who jumping in the castle.
Yeah. So the premise of the shot was just like kids are standing in line for the bouncy castle, and
Mm.
you know, me having the shot, I'm like, okay, how do I make this fun? So, one sec. Uh, how do I make this fun? I wanted to add a little character here with an ice cream, and then that escalated. I'm like, oh, it would be so cute to have the wolf pups just begging for the ice cream as well. So I have them in this corner. If you look over here, I thought it would be quite funny just to have a stumpy little character struggle to get onto the step.
Oh.
His friend comes up and just picks him up by the head. And then of course, like this guy jumping into the net. So like
Yeah,
you
very
see this
cute.
in you see this in the movie
I love
theater.
the
Don't do
two who
this.
are standing and staring at the ice cream.
Yeah.
That's a very typical like children
Yeah.
thing,
It's
you
so
know.
good.
Yeah, so much
Yeah.
detail, so much detail.
Yeah. It's quite fun to think of like these little stories that you can pop in that nobody ever really notices in the cinema. So
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
just
it
finding.
depends. It depends. Like when I remember when I loved an animation, I was watching it 100 times, and
Oh yeah.
each iteration, and each time I was like seeing new things. Oh, there's new things here, like
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's great.
now we know. Next time we
Yeah.
want to
Now
see
you
Hotel Transylvania, like we say, oh, that's Steph Shot.
yeah. You can look out for the tiny little plotline that I put in. So after Hotel Transylvania, I ended up working. The next project was Angry Birds movie, also still fixing. But at this point, I was getting quite fast and proficient in knowing what to look for technically and how to fix it quickly, to a point where I was running out of fixes to do. So I had asked, like, hey, I don't have anything on my plate right now. If you have any extra animation shots, crowds, whatever, I'm happy to pick up and help. And so I did a couple more crowd shots, and yeah, just kept doing that and learning while I was there. And the project after that was Smurfs: The Lost Village. And this one was where I finally got to animate, like fully, no fixes. And at this point, like, because I knew what not to do through all of the shots that I had fixed, I had the cleanest shots. There was rarely any shots that came back that needed fixing. So
Oh, wow.
all that fixing and grinding paid off. And this project was actually quite fun because there wasn't too much overtime, and it was like a pretty smooth production. The director was lovely to work with, and yeah, I just had so much fun animating characters and all the cartoon squishiness that comes with this. And then after that, I worked on the Emoji Movie. And I know everybody who sees the Emoji Movie rolls their eyes, but it was actually quite fun to work with. The animation, like, you can have so much fun with it. I had a crowd shot where, I took a bomb emoji and put it in a bath for a bath bomb. Super tiny, you'll never see it. But yeah, you just find like little fun stuff to put in. And after that, Hotel Transylvania 3, also, this was a proud moment for me because I had come full circle from being a fixed animator to a full animator now. After that, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This was an incredible movie to be a part of. I think while working on it, we all knew that this was going to be something special, but we weren't quite sure how special it was going to be. And then once it came out, like, it just, I don't know, it felt like it shook the entire world.
Yeah, it was one of those paradigms like that shift the visual landscape that we perceive.
Yeah, and it's like really, it's amazing that it's pushed for more arts and different styles and exploring that. in films and series and everything.
Yeah, and let it the experimental animators, come and be friends with the commercial animators. So it's just like brought both worlds of experimentation and the mainstream animation like kind of combined.
Yeah, it's incredible. This one, they actually brought out the Oscars to the studio so everybody can take a picture. But at the time I had just moved, so I'd missed all of that like fun celebrations. But I'll kind of move back into where I moved after. So after that movie, I was quickly and briefly on Angry Birds movie 2. And that was quite fun as well. Yes, full circle on all of these ones.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Michael says Spider-Man versus Spider-Verse is the reason he's doing the animation. Hello to the guys who just joined us: Anya, April, Cindy, Dana. Hello everyone.
Hey,
yep,
everybody.
sorry for interruption.
That's okay. That's all good. Were there any questions so far or comments? That's so cool.
Mostly compliments and oh my gods. Grace says, oh my god, Monster High. Julian says, I watched all the seasons and the movies of Slugitra.
Oh wow, big fans. Yeah, this is quite fun. All right, so as I mentioned, I had moved just after Spider-Verse, or just after Angry Birds 2. My partner at the time got a job at Weta in Wellington, and that caused me to shift a little bit. I didn't really want to go into visual effects just because I was so comfortable in being in stylistic, like keyframe, cartoony world of animation. And but I wanted to work internationally. And so that was like the ultimate goal. I was like, it'll be a couple of years, we can try it out. It doesn't hurt for me to try to get into visual effects anyway. So I jumped over, moved there, didn't know anybody. And unfortunately, the time that I moved, nobody was hiring animators. So I was just sitting there alone in the house, not knowing what to do in this the other side of the world, no family. I was like, why? What am I doing? So I did a lot of moping and I ended up at some point, I think it was 3 months in, I was like, okay, Steph, no more moping. What are you going to do in this amazing city, in this amazing country with your time? Stop moping. And so to get out of the house, I had a friend who used to do some circus, and there's the circus hub in Newtown. And so I was like, oh, I'll just take a class. And after that first class, like I just fell in love. I was all in for circus. So at least that got me out of the house, and I wasn't being such a sad couch potato. So I did some circus. Still, animation side, there wasn't any jobs available, but I was working on a reel on the side. So because I didn't have very much VFX experience, I tried to do like maybe a more realistic animation so that I could get a step towards VFX. So that's what I did on the side while I was doing circus. And I eventually met some friends and went to volleyball and started like setting down my roots, which was good. But after 6 months of no animation, I'm like, okay, I really need to animate. Otherwise my animation soul is going to die. So I saw a job opening for Animalogic in Sydney. Hopped over the water, went there for 8 months and worked at Peter Rabbit 2. So this was a really fun project because everybody who came to Sydney for this project, it was temporary. So every weekend somebody was doing something or we're going out to explore. So, and Sydney is beautiful. The beaches are amazing, and the water, the city, it's massive. I thought Vancouver was a massive city, and then I showed up in Sydney. I'm like, holy crap. So worked on Peter Rabbit 2 for 8 months, and this is where I had met Lucas and Garrick.
Mm.
And they were there as well. And we went up for lunch one day. And I don't know how the topic came up, but we were kind of joking about making our own studio. We were like, ha ha, ha, it'd be so fun. And that was like it for, I don't know, one lunch. After the project wrapped, we actually ended up back in Wellington. Windy Wellington. Because
Very
all of
good
our
photo.
partners are there. Yeah.
Says it all.
So
Yeah.
it was funny for me just because, you know, Pincher Creek is known for their wind. And you can see that with the windmills in the back. And Vancouver is obviously known for their rain. And in both of these places, I had spent like nearly at least a decade in them. And I complained about the weather the entire time. And I said, you know what, like I'm never going to live somewhere windy. I'm never going to live somewhere rainy. But
I'm going to go to New Zealand.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to New Zealand.
Weather is nice.
I go to Wellington.
You end up in Wellington.
Yeah. In Wellington, where it's always rainy or windy or both. But it's okay because we ended up there. And Lucas and Garrick and had called me up and they're like, hey, like nobody's hiring animators. We kind of want to start the studio? Do you want in? And I'm like, yeah, why not? Like, I'm not doing anything either. And so we decided to hire ourselves. We created Floating Rock. And, you know, actually we used to be called Little Rock, but we thought that was too close to another studio at Little Zoo that they kind of do the same thing. So we're like, oh, Floating Rock. We wanted to include, like, have this idea that this little rock is New Zealand, and the floating is the magic that comes with the animation. So Floating Rock was the juxtaposition we went with. The one prior, because we did do a little word salad, was actually called Buoyant Rock. So luckily we didn't go with that. We went with Floating Rock.
Yeah, this is much. Yeah,
it rolls off the tongue much better.
The name rhymes very well. Floating Rock.
Yeah, it does have a good ring. So yeah, this is probably one of the nice pictures of us that we've ever taken. We created Floating Rock with Garrick, Lucas, and Raha, and we are all artists. We've all been in the industry for over 10 years, and 3 of us are animators. I wonder which ones. And we have Raha as our assets extraordinaire. And so when we started Floating Rock, we started sending out emails for maybe 3 months, just cold emails out to every studio that was existing in the world that may have been wanting some animation. And we didn't hear back for months, and we were starting to lose hope a little bit. And we're like, what are we doing? Like, we don't know what we're doing at all. And finally, some people started bouncing back and had some projects for us to animate on. So there was 2 game trailers and a small commercial. And at that time, we were like, yes, yes, and yes, because if we didn't say yes to any of these projects, like there is no other projects coming in ever again. So huge mistake, because we had spent like the next 3 to 4 months just dying of and working on these projects, trying to deliver, because they all, of course, had the same deadline timeline. And yeah, it was hard. And we had done lots of overtime prior, like at other companies, but this was like a complete new level. So we all burnt out, and we said, okay, don't know what to do with Floating Rock right now. We're going to put you on the shelf, and we're just going to take a break, take a breather, and reset a little bit. So we took a break and went and got a full-time job not full-time, or like as a contractor at Weta. And so not really much of a break. I did some crowd stuff just to get an idea of like their pipeline, because it's quite complex, and worked on a couple of these movies, Christmas Chronicles. Also did some crowd on the elves and some background characters. or Snyder's Cut. So it was a super brief break. I think I was there for maybe 3 months. It was just amazing people, great work that they do there. And after that, I moved on to work remotely from Wellington for Spire Studios. And this was like a little studio in LA that had started up and making their own feature at the time. This was for Century Goddess. So that was, I think, another 3 months as well. Any questions so far? Good.
Spire Studio, never heard of them. They're in LA, you
they're
said,
quite
right?
Mhm. Yes.
How's the
They're
feature
quite nice.
state that the feature that they're making, is it finished or like?
I think they ended up switching to another feature after I left.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, there was some amazing people there, from like ex-Pixar, ex-Disney, and I was trying not to fangirl too much when I was working there, but it was really cool to work with them for a little bit. But after that, I working on that project really sparked my inner keyframe stylistic animation again. And I had missed it because this past year I had just been so focused on VFX. And so I went back to the guys and was like, you know what, like, let's go all in. Let's do Floating Rock. And so we were so committed that we had animated the logo. So this was like the first step of us being all in. And we had started with small projects, a lot of commercials and small animation things because that's all we knew. And as we started to do smaller projects, the clients became happy with what we were delivering, and we started to expand a little bit. So I'll show you the show reel. Can you hear this audio?
For audio to be heard, you have to like click on that share button on top and make sure that include computer sound is on. Possibly you have to stop sharing and resharing, and when you reshare, make sure to include computer sound is checked.
Got it.
On top. Yeah. Yep.
And testing this.
Yes, I can hear it now. Yes. Wow. So a lot of these shots were the outcome of just 4 of you?
No. So at this point, this is a reel for maybe the past 2 years.
Wow.
There's still some projects that we haven't
when
updated
you
yet.
were expanded. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so this is when we were expanding, definitely with a team, but yeah, you can
very
see
beautiful.
that.
Yeah, very high quality, like, right,
Thanks.
you know,
Yeah.
creature
Yeah.
outcomes. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely lots of creatures. I think people see like some of our past experience and they're like, oh, they must be good at creature stuff.
Yeah,
But
very creature focused,
yeah,
very
lots of,
performance focused. Yeah.
yeah, I'm hoping to do a bit more like character acting because that's like what I love to do. But I quite like what we're building where there's different styles and different
Yeah.
areas for people to just jump around. But yeah, you can see majority of it has been animation. And as we started to build in clients and get different projects, we can start to expand from animation to assets with Laurent and some like concepts, some compositing, some effects, and etc. So this is like our way of dabbling our toes in to new departments.
Beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah, so as we started to gain traction just last year, we had an opportunity with an investor, Hilference, or Rob, who has been interested in what we've been doing. And investment wasn't really a thing that we had ever thought about. So when the opportunity came up, like we talked about it and talked through it and concluded that with this $4 million, we could fast track and evolve what Floating Rock, what we wanted Floating Rock to be in the future and just get there sooner. And what we wanted with Floating Rock is just like a studio where we can eventually make our own content. It's, I think, everybody's dream to just make their own thing. And with us having a solid client vendor work going on the side, this was going to, yeah, just fast track everything. So with that, we invested the money into PitchFest and as well as making a solid team.
Beautiful.
So
tell us what is PitchFest, because I'm sure a lot of people here are very interested to know what it is and how they can be part of it.
Yeah. So with PitchFest, I think we had a getaway weekend to celebrate one of our anniversaries for Floating Rock. I think it was our second one. Floating Rock's second birthday. And we had a weekend away. And one of the things that came up was, wouldn't it be cool if we could create a space with our team to help like develop their stories or develop our stories? And then it just escalated to be like, well, what if we helped other people tell their story in New Zealand? And this is where PitchFest became a thing.
Fantastic.
The idea with PitchFest is there's a lot of people who have stories for films or TV series or maybe even games. We're not quite in the games just yet, but people have this narrative that they want to tell, and they can start writing it or developing it, but that always gets to like a certain point and they're not sure quite where to go because some people don't have maybe the funds to keep going or a team to develop it. And
or exposure to the distributors and producers as well.
Yeah, and they might not have those connections. And so with Floating Rock, we're hoping to be, I guess, like that glue or that stepping stone to help creators and storytellers get to tell their story. So the idea right now, just because it's open to New Zealand and anybody above 18 who has a story, they pitch us their project within a 3-minute video. And then the directors of Floating Rock, aka the Floaties. We're called the Floaties. Our team is called the Rockies. Floating Rock, you get it. We get to choose the 10 that we see the most potential in the pool of submissions, whoever submits. And Within that 10, within the Pitch Fest event day, these 10 people will get invited on top of like all of our teams, some industry people, and some people who might be producing or have connections in the industry. So on this day, people come in to the Roxy. It's in Wellington, and the 10 round one people, they get $2,500 just for all of their hard work. They can do with it what they will. Ideally invested into their project. On the day, it's purely democratic. So the people who attend, they get to vote on which 3 of those 10 move into the next round. Those 3 get $10,000 and 4 months to further develop their pitch. So a lot of times it's put into maybe some writing or some concept arts and anything that was missing from their original idea. And at the next Pitch Fest, we host 3 of them a year. We go through the same thing. People who attend get to pick, of those 3, one person who will move into the next round, which is round 3, and they get $100,000 to now develop it into a full pitch deck. And because we are a CG studio, part of this pitch that we want to, I guess, maybe do a bit differently is create maybe a mini trailer or do some work in progress so that that's included in the pitch deck that we can then take to buyers, whoever wants to invest their money, and ideally maybe fund the project and then have Floating Rock produce it. So yeah, does that make sense?
Yes, a lot of sense. Yes.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
I'm sure that like students will have a lot of questions, but let's look at your amazing presentation and then we come back to the questions.
Good. This is a look into the day.
Whose head is that?
You don't go ahead.
That's me in the middle. I had so much fun being part of it. I didn't get to the next round because all other 9 ideas were much better than mine. But like, but I really enjoyed the vibe, and I think we are very lucky that we have such an opportunity in New Zealand. I don't know if anything similar exists in Canada, because that's a lot of community building. That's a lot of love and care, like kind of devoted to the community of creators. So I know that at the end it's a business model, but it's a very human-centered business model. It's a very like kind of I'm really looking forward to see the results. And I know, yes, that's me, guys. That's me. There's a lot of things. Jose, I was shocked. I loved. Yeah.
Yeah, you did amazing on the day. It was a good pitch.
Yeah. B says, I love the shark headband.
Oh,
eating your head. Yes. Yeah.
So yeah,
Steph used that to say that your time is off.
Yeah. I wanted to do like the Oscars where they start to play the jazz music, but that was a bit too intimidating. So I used a very scary headband instead.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was
Awesome.
a great day,
Yeah.
and it's definitely a great atmosphere. I think for collaboration and just like as you said, community building, and with all of us not being well, Garrick's a Kiwi or half Kiwi at least, but Laurent is from France. Lucas, he's from Switzerland. I'm from Canada, and like we all fell in love with New Zealand and creating a New Zealand company. I think with Pitchfest, this is kind of our way of giving back to the community and the country that we fell in love with. So yeah, it's still just starting up. This is just our third Pitchfest is coming up on October. Submissions just closed, but if you've got a story for the next one, we'll be opening submissions soon.
Yeah. Did you guys hear that? So next round of Pitchfest is coming on October. If you have any idea, like you have done some writing or a sketch or like some creation about it, don't miss it out. And go to pitchfest.co.nz.
Yes.
And read about it. Read about the structure. You have to submit 2-3 minutes movie, and who knows, maybe sorry, maybe your idea would be between the selected ones, and you would given the chance to repitch your idea to a group of I had so much fun. I met some really great producers in the mix and mingle time. They approached me, they talked to me, such great people. And it's an amazing event.
Oh, I'm so glad you had a good time. Yeah, this one's the October one is closed, but we're going to be planning one for probably sometime early next year. And yeah, just keep an eye out for the submissions to open again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on pitchfest.co.nz.
So yeah, this is our way of like building up the IP sector. So it comes back to creating our own stuff alongside like amazing creators. So we want to empower the storytellers to help tell their story. And yeah, hopefully one of these projects get picked up. In the meantime, you can see that we've built up our pipeline because we're able to do some of the vendor work and dabble into different departments. Now we've started playing with like, okay, what can we do from start to finish? And the dinosaurs has been especially popular lately. But you'll see here, this is a game trailer that we did for Space Rock Games, which is in Auckland. And we did everything from assets to rendering as well, and started touching into Unreal 2. So
beautiful.
Pipeline is getting there. It's getting there. So yeah, I had spent previously just talking about places that I worked and animated on and showed some of the projects. But at Floating Rock, my projects now don't consist of animation anymore, unfortunately, which does make me a little sad, but I know we're going just through a huge growth spurt, and there's a lot of moving parts that I have to look after anyway, so animation will be minimum for now, but I'll get back there. There's a lot of creativity still, though, that involves in some of the projects. So one of them being I have opportunities to now talk at different events. This was Ruby and I chatting at a WIFT event, which is Women in Film and Television, where we got to talk and promote and outreach, do a bit of outreach for Floating Rock and Pitchfest. We got interviewed by RNZ, Garrick and I, at the airport of all places, just before we took off to go to Annecy. This was a film festival in France that
for those of you who don't know what is Annecy. Annecy is, I think I should say, the largest animation festival.
I would say
it is the world largest animation event. So it's and it has multiple sections: festival and market, animation market attached to it. So it's an event that we had one project there, which was shortlisted and won as well.
What?
So it
Ooh.
has it's an amazing large event. So if you might end up like submitting an animation there, um, go for it. Miriam, B says, I have a friend who went when she was studying animation in Denmark. Miriam says, good on you for making such a fantastic contribution to the New Zealand animation scene and nurturing a strong scene of community. I'm wondering if you might be willing to disclose what kind of films you're intending to create yourself.
Me
Well,
personally. Floating
yes,
Rock.
as Steph. Yes. Stephanie
that's interesting.
Parker's directed ... Stephanie Parker. What gonna that movie
That's
be?
a good question. I when I did have time to obsess about things, I did go through a phase of obsessing over stop motion, and I still have a little bit.
I'm sure
It's still
Miriam
there.
is screaming because Miriam is a stop motion lecturer in our department.
What? Yeah, I would love to sit in on that.
Yeah.
I did take like a mini workshop with stop motion just to practice and see how that feels, and it's so annoying, but it's so like, I don't know, fulfilling once it's done. Like,
Fulfillingly annoying.
yeah. So I don't know. There was a hot second where I thought maybe, oh, we can make some stop motion. That would be a fun film to make. But, for me, I don't know if I have enough of a vision to create an entire film. But I really love the process of helping other people make their film. So I think for now, I'm going to stick to that. And I'm going to have that idea brewing, maybe a stop motion film in my head. We'll see.
Yes. Yeah,
When Floating Rock opens a Floating Rock department, a stop motion department, it might be easier to fulfill.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so we went to Annecy, and we wanted this year, a lot of us, the directors, we've been flying around just to different events and conferences to try to make connections with people and suss out where people might be looking for fresh content that they might be interested in eventually down the line. And so Annecy was just amazing to be around, like surrounded by people who have passion projects, and it was really inspiring just to, I don't know, be a part of it and just hear what everybody else is doing. So if you ever get a chance to go, I would recommend it. One of the other opportunities that came, and one of the projects is 4D scan that I never would have ever dreamed of, I don't know,
being
seeing.
scanned.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is just like a project that we went to Sydney for.
So there's a digital version of you out there now, right?
Not yet. But
Not
this
yet.
is just me testing.
Oh, okay. I thought that you've been you've been inside the scanner being
Yeah.
scanned.
No, it was well, yeah, I did a test scan, and then it was for another project as well.
Oh, yeah.
But
It's
once
an
it comes out,
amazing photogrammetry setup. Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I
But
like
yeah, it's very impressive.
the LED lights for the flattest image possible.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Really fun. And then yeah, of course, organizing and Pitch Fest. The first one was so stressful for me to plan, just because there's so many moving parts and so many people involved. So that was a huge learning curve, and glad that it's been working out so far. One of the other projects that we work on is building an office, apparently. So that was quite fun to get into some of the construction and destruction.
Yeah. I saw on your LinkedIn that you've look at that. knocking into the wall. I saw
Yeah.
that the office is almost done, right?
Nearly, yeah. Everybody's
Yeah,
moved
yeah.
in, so it's now just making it feel like a
Congratulations.
nice and homey. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, our team is getting quite big. We used to sit in a room, which was about 100 meters square, and now this place is like 600 square meters. So
Jeez.
it's quite large. One of the other projects is I got a chance to mentor some students for a week for animation acting.
Mhm.
And this was in Switzerland, of all places. So
Oh,
that was really
beautiful.
cool to experience. You know, Lucas always goes home to teach, and they had an open spot. And I was like, yeah, I'm totally keen. This was really cool and really fun. Such a good group of animators. And this was at GDC. You know, you get to run around and make connections, and we want to try to touch into the game space a bit more. So we've been sussing out anybody who's been looking for a game trailer at the same time. These conferences, though, are just like exhausting because you spend the entire day just meeting people and being engaged with new people, a lot of small talk, and then you're constantly checking your chats to make sure that everything's okay with everything in the office, and then you know any other meetings that you have to jump into every now and then. So by the end of the day, like I'm just completely wrecked. But yeah, that's just to say, like, although there's all of these amazing things that are happening, like I think people see it and they're like, wow, it must be so fun and so easy, and look at you doing all this stuff. But you know, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that I don't know, it's just hard sometimes. You know, especially like me trying to like on top of not animating anymore, it's kind of a new space for me. So I'm constantly feeling a bit uncomfortable, but I'm starting to learn to be comfortable with like this new chapter of building a studio. So a lot of the times there's a lot of meetings that I'm not quite fond of, but it's just a different type of, I guess, creativity. And yeah, it's a good team, so I don't mind.
Leadership chapter.
Leadership chapter, yeah. And yeah, so there's a lot of late nights that are involved. This is me and Laurent trying to figure out something at like 10:30 p.m. or something that wasn't working for whatever reason. And although we created like this amazing remote studio, it's quite hard sometimes to turn off. And so when I went to go visit my family the last week or the other week, I ended up sitting in this very ergonomic stool and a tiny coffee table, like working ridiculous hours because I was tied into New Zealand hours, and I think they're 18 hours apart. So my day started at 3 p.m. until midnight or even longer. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows all the time, but that's okay because you know the end goal is still very prominent, and I think as long as you're striving to do your best in whatever you're doing, you'll get there, no matter how hard it gets. And yeah, I guess some of the takeaways that I hope you guys get from this is that things aren't going to go the way that you think or exactly how you plan. So I think it's just about, you know, reflecting on what is good now and what can you do in this moment to work towards whatever your goal is. So yeah, that's
Fantastic.
me.
Fantastic. Let's send Steph one virtual applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was an amazing talk. While everyone is writing down their questions, I have few questions here for you. I was amazed by your circus thing and all the
you.
like kind of like
It's very addicting.
yes, you're very like serious movements and choreography. So my question is, did it influence your animation job? Did you take something back from it?
Yes.
Okay.
I think
I would love to hear that.
yeah, I think because you know animation and circus is just like revolved around motion, and
Motion.
I have this, I don't know, I quite like movement. And so with circus, because I got like weirdly obsessed about it, I ended up doing a student showcase. There's a student showcase that they have, and so I did an act, and actually I took animation and put it into circus. So a bit of the opposite. So when I was planning out this 3-minute act, I thought about the key poses that I wanted to put in. So like any of my favorite moves or silhouettes that I wanted to hit. And then I had to time out, like put in the breakdowns, like what are the transitions that I want from getting into one pose to the other. And yeah, and that's how I created my circus act, through an animation brain. So,
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm really, like, as a teacher, I'm really fascinated about this parallel learnings and how they inform each other. B, open up your mic and ask your question. B is raised her hand.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
I'm also from a really small town. I also live in Sweden, so yeah, I'm yeah. And I come from a like small town there, which is like 7,000 people. So it's also quite small. But I wanted to then ask you, yeah, but yeah, exactly. But as someone from a small town background like yourself, how has that, do you think, impacted your work and your connection to your colleagues?
I think that's a good question. From coming from a small town, I think you don't think, I think for me at least, you don't take things for granted. Like you're quite happy with like what you have, and although it's not super extravagant and I don't know, a lot of fluff or whatever, you're happy to work with what you have. And I think that has been a large part of, I guess, my journey, where, like you can't always compare to yourself to people who might have something better. And yeah. So does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. A self-reliance, and like being I don't know, appreciating what is coming to you and know the value of it. These are like really, really interesting qualities that many might not have.
Yeah, because I think like once I moved to Vancouver or Sydney, like it was quite easy to be distracted by like the
glamour.
Yeah, there's so much going on, but in a small town, like it's, I don't know, I don't want to say simple, but it is, a bit closed, so you can focus on what you need to do.
Yeah. True. Anya asked regarding Pitch Fest. Thanks, B. Amazing question. Sorry, we're touching the very heart of your like journey, but that's how we learn. I think you are a role model for many of our students, so they can learn a lot from you. Anya asks regarding Pitch Fest, if we have submitted a pitch that wasn't successful in round 1, are we able to polish up our submission video and submit the same pitch for the next Pitch Fest?
Yes, as long as there's been like a significant change, definitely. Yeah, I think what
they receive a feedback from you about if they fail. They receive a feedback.
Yeah, we're trying to give feedback to everybody who submits. It does take a while because there are a lot, and but yeah, we want to try to at least give some feedback back, and you can take that and develop it even further. And yeah, we definitely want to see you working on it. One of the last people who to get into round 2. His idea was actually submitted in the very first Pitch Fest, and then he got feedback, kept working on it, developed it even further, and then resubmitted the same idea, but it was like milestones ahead. So
Vincent, you're talking about Vincent, right?
yes. Yeah.
I loved his pitch.
Yeah.
I loved his pitch.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. But yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions? Please feel free to write the questions here. I read it for Steph, or open your mic and ask it. I have a question here. So you are, which I think is very important for many of my students, because many of my students identify as females. You are active in active voice in talking about women in the industry.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because I saw you doing some talks and some announcements and things. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I don't have too much to talk about just because it's still quite new. But I have been in touch with WIFT the past year, maybe. And it's just, we had the opportunity to, do a bit of outreach with women in film and television. And I'd love to keep doing more, maybe on different talks, but I've attended some of their workshops just out of curiosity, but also just to support the area. I think it's good. And I think it's always great to see other women, do their thing, do what they're good at, and pursue their passions.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
And finding the position in the industry. And one last question, anyone? I really enjoyed you talking about your leadership experience as well, because moving through like different stages, you start. I'm sure you have a much more deeper connection with the people who work for you, because you've been there, and and also this leadership approaches you have in mind, which helps a lot.
Yeah. There's definitely some relatability when it comes to that. But yeah, leadership is, some days I find it's like really good, and some days I find it like just so difficult to get a grasp on.
Yeah.
So
especially when it comes to conflicts, and you have to resolve that. It's just too much of a burden, too much of emotional burden.
Yeah, I'm such an empathetic as well. So like as soon as somebody's sad, I'm like, why? What's wrong? Let me help you. So I think it's good though. Like it's good to connect with people as people. So I want to keep doing that.
Michael asks, in PitchFest, do we have to pay participation fee? No. There's no participation fee.
Yeah, the fee is that you have to sit in front of a camera and try not to be awkward when you pitch. So we wanted to try to make it
helps. It depends on the story. Sometimes it helps to be awkward.
Yeah.
Okay. Any B says, B have another question. B, go.
Hello, I always have questions.
Fantastic to have questions.
I also wanted to ask, like, what would you say is more valuable within an artist? So like we're talking both 2D and 3D. Would you say a cartoony style or realism is more valuable, or are both equally valuable for things?
I think it really just comes down to what you want and where you see yourself, and what you prefer. For me, I prefer the more cartoony, stylistic stuff. So I tend to lean into anything that involves me furthering that for myself. But like of course, it doesn't hurt to know a bit of realism or whatever the opposite is, and just have that under your belt as some experience. But yeah, I think it depends on you. I know that doesn't so much.
No,
But
yeah, thank you.
yeah.
Go with what you like.
Mhm.
Thank you so much,
Follow
Steph. We really appreciate your amazing talk. We learned a lot. We enjoyed listening to your story and yeah, go Floaty rocks and like you guys rock. And
Thank you.
thanks for being there for us, for the whole community of animation and visual effects and game design. So, and a lot of people are sending their thanks. Barbara says, thank you, Steph. That was very cool to see your journey and some of your gorgeous animations.
Thank you.
One more
it was-
question, Barbara. Yes. Okay, this is going to be the last questions, guys. In terms of working in a studio as a junior animator, how much creative freedom you get?
When I was a junior, I definitely had some. A lot of the times you are going to be learning from whoever your lead is, but I think I was never not able to suggest an idea or an acting choice. They would always be happy to hear that. So you can find some creative freedom in that. Like even though the task is, this character has to do this thing, but you get to choose how they act that out, So yeah, don't be afraid to suggest your ideas. And of course, just listen to the feedback that you get. So
like the bouncing castle and
yes.
and the two kids staring at your ice cream.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
If you have any further questions, feel free to just write to me and I'll try to get back to you.
Yeah. So that was my last question. If students are willing to reach to you, can they connect to you through LinkedIn, or is that the best way to reach you out?
Yes. I will caveat that I'm terrible at getting back at some messages, so it might just take me a few days, but
it may take a few years.
Feel free to. I hope not.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Grace.
If we contact you, are we allowed for the pitch fest? Are we allowed to get feedback of you just to proofread or look?
If it's specifically for Pitch Fest, just to keep it fair, we'll just send it to Pitch Fest.
For the
submissions
sake of
when it opens.
neutrality, they can't contribute in that part. Yeah.
But if you shoot it through the submissions, then that's where you can get the feedback. If you can be a little patient. Yeah.
Okay. That's okay. Thank you.
It's so exciting to hear that everybody has an idea, though.
Yes. A lot of excited students.
Love that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you again. I know that you're a very, very busy person, so we let you to carry on doing your stuff. It's an evening, so have a great evening over there and enjoy the last days of summer in Vancouver.
Great. Thank you.
And we're looking forward
so
to
much.
seeing you. Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you back in New Zealand.
Yes, I'll be there in a few weeks, so I'll see you guys there. Thanks so much, everybody. This was great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.